Hello, and welcome to the War in the Pacific, where it is the 5th of January 1942 in the Wirraway versus Encircled play-by-mail campaign. 5th of January will mark the forces of Japan's attempt to land on Fiji. Looks like he's moved an S-boat there. He sighted my invasion convoy just last turn as they approached, so he has relatively limited amount of time to respond. Way on the other side of the world, I-164 is being chased by ASW assets. So Canberra, she was chasing down uh, my armed merchant cruiser, which escaped. The poor little Didi Oite, who's out of fuel, probably will not escape. So I made a mistake here. I could have kept her operating off Suva and, found a transport or something that she could have fueled off of instead of sending her back to her death at Numier, knowing that, or at least air surge looked like a heavy cruiser was trying to chase down my armed merchant cruiser, which is hiding in the harbor in port. S-28 still there. Oh, she's hit. She was hit solidly, though she's not showing up as heavily damaged. Hard to believe she has much offensive potential anymore. It's like the defense of Fiji is coming down to just S-28 so far. So this is a interesting follow-up. I had landed a Special Naval Landing Force company-sized unit uh, 3 days ago, the last video, and I had another one on a fast transport task force that just refused to actually move. It sat for 2 days. There is an algorithm where the fast transport task force decides whether it can get in there and out. Um, but I had it set to remain on station, still wouldn't move. Um, Eventually, after 3 days, I guess the commander decided the situation was, the odds were in his favor, or the auguries were in his favor. So light cruisers covering the actual invasion task force, which is now landing. You can see the basic force composition: 144th Infantry Regiment and the 65th Brigade, along with some Corps artillery. Oh, Grayling is there, so the entire defense wasn't left to S-28. Grayling is hit solidly. So both his two submarines, those two submarines were crippled. Continuing to unload, that's a good sign. should only take us essentially this one day because to unload enough supply and all of our combat power. So unless something shows up soon, ah, so he's got a so he's been routing a lot of his various ships, trying to still the few remaining in the Philippines and even some further east. He tries to run them past Hiroshima. This one happened to bump into this task force that has damaged Otago, damaged Maya, and damaged Hosho. None of them are significantly damaged on their way back to the home islands for repair in a major shipyard. All three have been doing escort work, but the situation is stable enough now in the celebs and such that I thought I could send them back for full repairs. So quite a few submarines. So Catalinas and bombers operating presumably out of his main fleet base. I've cited Carrier Division 3, or should I start calling it Carrier Division 5? We're bombing Surabaja. Just want to remove that airfield as an option for him to use for his bombers. So yeah, so this third cavalry regiment trying to pin it from escaping the attack from my armor units. The third cavalry regiment moved into the hex, stalled my advance, and now maybe trying to move back out of the hex again before I can attack it. A little bit of air support to those special naval landing force units, trying to get rid of the paratroopers. Some sweeps. He's mostly withdrawn his fighters from Java now. So why am I trying to damage the airbase at Surabaya? Well, at any moment, Tijupo could flip because it's not occupied and has oil. So if it flips, I definitely don't want a large enemy airbase that he can use for bombers right next to it and sweep with fighters because I'll have to try to defend. Don't have to, but I will probably try to defend the oil. So I want to close his air bases that are in close proximity. So if I do have to defend the oil, I'm not doing it against sweeps and bombers. Interesting. wonder where they're flying out of. Small scale air combat. Not sure what B-17s are doing. So he was. Looks like he was strafing. Yeah, he's strafing. Interesting. I was seeing if he was trying to defend or cap his units in reserve there. He was not, apparently. Well, it looks like our landing in Suva is going to go off essentially without issue. Couple submarines, both of which lost their fight with the destroyers. That looks like about it. No sign of his carriers. The invasion task force has got cap from the nearby carriers above it. So. Oh, it's not going to end well for my Marys. So they get underneath him here, but then shot down on the way out. So I have a line of submarines south of Fiji, and they catch small transport trying to escape. Okay. So we attacked well, we attacked with armor and one infantry division. It's pretty good. Disabled 275. So his starting AV was 1200. So it's now down under 1,000. So it's going to take a little while to whittle this down in times 3 terrain. They didn't quite, tanks didn't quite get the 2-to-1. They assault across the river into Hanyang. He didn't have anything there. Shock attack into Pegu. He didn't have much there. Kuala Lumpur. that brigade is almost dead. Uh-oh. Looks like that cavalry regiment has escaped. I'll show you what I mean as soon as we're done here, cycling through the end of turn. So the cavalry unit was in this hex, and I was prepared to attack, and it had moved into this hex, um, halting my advance on Jorobaru, and then was able to get out of the hex before I could attack it, even though I bombed it. So uh, frustrating, but we'll keep have to keep at this until using bombers and sweeps till we can actually make this advance um, into Jorobaru. Meanwhile, we're going to have to dislodge this regiment because even though the Marys gave it their all, this regiment was able to, well, brigade, was able to move down and occupy Malacca. And we're going to have to remove him just as he's just about done for. Just like we have to remove him before we can rail anybody down. And of course, all that's dependent on tanks and recon elements actually overcoming the back and forth with his motorized units here. Last turn, the weather kept my bombers from being able to interdict his movement into this hex, but we'll try again. Eventually, the weather's going to play out so that he can't do this in and out successfully. But he buys a turn, a day or two each time. So yeah, he's got presumably bombers and patrol aircraft operating out of Colombo that sighted my carriers. We're going to move a little deeper into no man's land here, refuel. Our destroyers are getting short on fuel, and then continue our movement into this area where don't want him to be able to send any forces directly to Bombay. Anything from Aden, is going to have to at least make some risky movement in the Arabian Sea, and he knows my carriers are out there. So either I catch him or I don't. But if I don't catch him, I still am likely to throw a spanner into his reinforcement operations into India, which is their primary goal. Meanwhile, the operation on Suva went without issue, so assuming we've got enough supply offloaded. Looks like we'll have to do a little more supply offloading, but we can move everybody else out and continue our attack to resecure Fiji and withdraw the carriers, which are right now here, for follow-on operations against Port Moresby. He has some destroyers at Pago Pago. It's a tempting target, but I don't know where his carriers are, and I don't have air search coverage in this zone, so I'm not going to go chasing after minor stuff at Pago Pago. I'm going to stick to our plan to move on against Port Moresby with carrier coverage. We can check and just see what happened in the air. Wasn't particularly pretty. Obviously, the ratios still strongly favor us, but let's take a look at what our aircraft losses were. Yeah, the Marys, Pete's, nothing really else. Not sure. Guess the Pete's were off my light cruisers. Nope. Must have been off my heavy cruisers. Yeah. Well, I lost the Pete, but not the pilot. Interesting. Hmm. So the other Pete must have come from Kiso? No? Not sure where she was. Interesting. Pretty sure they were shot down over here. Rosho's little air group waiting patiently to be resized eventually. Continues to get kills. We're ready for initial attacks at Maduin. Our paratroopers are essentially on site now, and I'm going to bring these destroyer minesweepers, have them join my invasion task force before I move on Makassar. Probably use these heavy cruisers. Will bombard Makassar, go back and rearm. Um, let's try to. Yeah, he's got most of his fighters now operating Makassar, so uh, we'll do a nighttime bombardment and sweep and bomb and move on Makassar, and then eventually last one to fall will be Copan. It's all good. We talked about China. Attack south of Changsha is going fine. Looks like he's retreating. Though it looks like he's advancing on Wuchao. It's a good move by him. Um, Picking up the light industry and resource there will largely replace what he's losing here, though, of course, it won't be hard for us to turn around and take that back. Right now, there's just a battalion holding it. We'll withdraw, free up this division, um, probably try to put together this division. It takes a little doing to get the 51st together, but then move back on Wuchia. But again, nice opportunistic move by him to replace the light industry he's about to lose. Okay, well, that's it for this day in the war in the Pacific, and I'll look forward to our next chance to talk.